It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Am I live? Am I live? Sounds like I am live. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I guess we got the semi quasi news here. The old Biden took it. I think I said on my last stream, well, with Frank, or I said, I think it'd probably be better if Biden won because then people would be less complacent, about the whole government lockdown thing and trillions of dollars to a phony man-made pandemic dealie, and people wouldn't just be like, well, Trump is just playing ball for the election and he's just political maneuvering, right? Well, he lost his whole base, where a lot of people ended up not voting for the guy because he's a liar. All right. Now, I think that it's probably likely Trump is just going to fight the whole thing in court. And then we'll have the courts decide who's going to be our president. Is probably what's going to happen. I know a lot of people are probably upset about the old Trump. There's a whole lot of Trump supporters. I'm like, none of this stuff makes any difference. It never has. I stopped being politically active probably early 20s because I saw it for the scam that it is, and now they want to do this voter fraud thing. And it's like, there's voter fraud in every single election. And what is likely going on is the losing side is bumping up their numbers with no intention of taking the vote. Because if you did that and you took the vote, well, of course, then there's going to be an investigation as to fraudulent ballots. But if you fraud enough so that you don't quite win, it makes the election look closer to 50-50. And it's the Republicans versus Democrats, and we can all fight it out. And you're not on my side, you're on their side, and you're the enemy. And I think it's all just a game. I think that's what they do. And I think what happened in the 2000 thing with the Bush Jr. was Al Gore seceded right away. He didn't want any recounts or anything. And I think what happened was there was enough fraud in there where they were trying to make it 50-50 close, but he went a little bit too far. And we didn't want to look into any votes or anything. We didn't want to. And I think that's what that was all about. And now we have the same thing here where there's supposedly this big, huge divide where people are it's just Trump supporters. There's just all these people out here who support Biden. I haven't heard of any. There's signs out there anywhere just because they're voting Democrat. But Joe Biden is not like a superstar anything. The guy is allegedly senile and dementia out and doesn't know where he is. So I think that's great because no one's going to listen to him. I mean, is anybody going to close down their businesses for the Rona with Joe Biden in there? Is anyone going to listen to Joe Biden and what he dictates? Likely no. The conservative people aren't going to listen to him. And we're going to take a look at Trump. And there's some things that I wasn't aware of with Trump. I thought, Trump is probably the better guy to go for in the election. It doesn't really matter, but Trump is a lot more entertaining. But we'll just look at the reality of the situation. And, it is likely, I don't know how likely, but people like Owen Benjamin and them out there think that Trump is still going to win. And it's going to be the finding all the voter fraud and win by the courts. And it's like, yeah, it does seem like Trump is the guy who is picked to be the leader. And I think that's the way they want it to go. And they need another, people against each other to keep them all worked up and not care about what's actually going on in the world. They need to fight Democrats, Republicans, blah, 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 blah. Well, what happened to coronavirus? What happened to that? Is that done now? Are we done with that for a couple of weeks? It's all this election stuff. So, it's just following the narrative. You just got to separate yourself. It just doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you vote for in the presidential election or if you vote. Doesn't. Now, your local people, sure. People that you can actually go knock on their door and ask them something, sure. That might make a difference, but who's running the corporation of the United States doesn't make a difference. There are a few things that we're going to go over here. I am going to put this up on my True Earther channel. Also, because I want to talk about Space Force a little bit, which I thought was a joke when he said it, but it turns out it's a real thing. We're going to cover what some of good old Donnie Trump, good old Donnie, the God-fearing Donnie, and the great conservative businessman that good old Donnie is, right? I'm more happy that I said I'd rather prefer Biden win when I was talking to Frank. Creations of RJ, how you doing? Critical Mass, how you doing? Yeah, and throw stuff in chat and talks amongst yourself. I'll peer over at it from time to time, but kind of wanted to make this quick and talk about a few things that are in the works that are going to affect your future more than any presidential garbage. All right. So as it turns out, after it looked like Trump already won on election night, based on your preliminary polls with a lot of stuff reporting, now he's only got 214 electoral votes and Biden's got 290. So obviously there's some shenanigans in there. Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's the CEO. Why doesn't it matter? Oh, everything's going to burn down if Biden gets in there, the crazy liberal guys. It's like, now look, Biden isn't dangerous because everyone knows what the Democrats do. They expand the government to communism as far as they possibly can. And that's why they never get anything done, is because the right is always there to go, no, you're not doing that. We're not going to do that. But you have a conservative in there, supposedly conservative, and you've got a guy who says he's a Christian, right? He's in there and he does some stuff and no one even notices, right? And I was one of those guys who noticed, but not the full extent. Now, we have this aid thing going out where everybody in America and all over the world, all of the countries under the crown and under the grabblers, okay? Everybody is getting like $1,000 check out, or if you're unemployed, you get like $600 a week or $1,000 a week or whatever it is. That was all paid for by Trump. He put out a $2.4 billion thing. Okay, that was like, okay, this is our relief fund, $2.4 billion. And my question at the time was, well, if you do the math on that, $1,000 times 300 million people, where's the rest of the money going? Okay, not a huge deal because that's just a drop in the bucket, 2.4 billion. But it turns out, and this is why people didn't vote for Trump, people that knew this before I did. I just found out about this recently. U.S. has thrown more than $6 trillion at the coronavirus, and that number could grow. Now, this is like probably an older article, but as we look down here, it says in late February, Trump said it planned to spend $2.5 billion to fight the Ronu. A month and a half later, Trump signed off on spending almost 1,000 times as much. So I knew about the $2.5 billion when he announced the relief for people, and then he bumped it up to $2.35 trillion. Trillions of dollars. And then he has the go ahead to spend another $4 trillion beyond that from the Federal Reserve. So good old Trump last year in February, March, added $6 trillion to the budget after already adding like 5 or 6 trillion before that during his 4 years, making him a guy who has spent more money than any Democrat really coming before him in this last 20 years. Obama didn't do that. So there is nothing different about Donald Trump than a total communist liberal. Nothing. All right. Nothing. They are the same wings, the same bird with the wings, right? That's it. Trump just sells it by his quippy remarks on Twitter and his little captions on YouTube and his little press whatevers. So people like him because he makes little quips. But then when he actually does something, he goes full liberal. He also banned bump stocks on guns and is trying to say that if you post something about social media. If they declare that you're like mentally unstable, they want to get your guns that way too, that Trump's doing. Now, Trump was the guy who was elected originally for going after internet censorship companies like YouTube pulling your stuff down, like Facebook pulling your stuff down. Well, right now, everybody is getting deleted off all these platforms, and Trump isn't doing anything. He's not getting off Twitter. He's not doing anything. So what has this guy really done? He talks a lot of crap, but at the end of the day, he put $6 trillion on our deficit, which was like at 15 when he started. Now we're at 30. Trump is not a good old Christian conservative guy. But like I said, doesn't really matter. But you know, $6 trillion, and then you have this whole deal with shutting down businesses, and then we're going to have aid going out to businesses that they close their doors because of this mask stuff. All right, well, the reason they want to test everybody and the reason that they want to label everything the RONU is because in order to get some of that $6 trillion, every state has to test everybody and has to do all these hoops to try and get money. Because guess what, guys? You might be mad at the people that are like welfare cases and the people that don't do too much. Guess what? Every city, every state is on welfare. The entire state, the entire system is on welfare. The entire thing. The federal government is on welfare. Okay? Everybody is. And this is why all the laws are the same all across the world. They all have the same stuff, is because everybody's on welfare. Everybody's a slave. Where are they getting their money from? That's who you're a slave to. So the reason you have all these mandates and all of these things and all of this testing and all your businesses shut down is because of Donald Trump. Okay. So before everybody starts to getting Civil War ideas about fighting the left or anything like that, just understand it's just a game to keep you caught up in something no different than football or anything else. Doesn't really matter. The end outcome has already been planned and plotted probably 10 or 15 years ago, just like the old outbreak deal was in the Rockefeller report in 2010 called Operation Lockstep. It's exactly what we're in right now, guys. It doesn't matter who's president. Doesn't matter. Take a look at chat briefly, and then we're going to talk about what do we got? Space Force. Or we're going to talk about a bill first. But I want to put this up on both of my channels. So I want to talk about Space Force and at least talk about that a little bit, right? Something fun. Now that I got the good thing that Trump didn't win thing out of the way. If you're getting anything done, you're going to get haters. Our way of electing presidents? No, it comes from the Constitution, but the states can... There are some states that divide up their electoral votes, which would make it harder to rig. So no one wants to do that. I thought he would win again. He will win again. I think that it's very likely that he'll get overturned in the courts. That's just, I mean, it might not, but I don't see why it wouldn't, because Trump has gotten so much done for them. And I think he was the planned guy to be in. I don't think that the elite expected anyone would vote for Joe Biden. They did their absolute best to make him look like an idiot. So you got me. You got me. Americans are sleepwalking if they trust in their ability to vote. Well, in a federal election, yeah, because honestly, even at the federal level, whatever they do at that level, what difference does it make in a country like the United States, which is huge? And I think people understand just how huge it is. Like, we can fit like 3 or 4 Europes just in our continental United States. And then if you throw like Alaska in there, another like 3 more. A huge populations. Like the population of like just California is the same as Canada or something. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. You believe they started the pandemic to empty our coffers? bankrupt our ability to fight back. Well, the whole idea, we're going to get into this right now, actually, is, and she brought that up. The whole idea is to bankrupt all of the people that work and support themselves and have businesses, and give all the money to Jeff Bezos, give it all to Google, give it all to, I mean, Trump himself probably made out like a bandit. The people that own all of these big, huge companies like quadrupled their profits during the whole scam that's going on. And that's the idea, is to drain the wealth out of the population so that they become more and more reliant on benefits and what do they call that? Privileges, right? Not rights, privileges. So you have people that will volunteer into systems so they can get a privilege, right? So my guess is that they're gonna push towards having a standard income for everybody, and if you're below that, then you can get the privilege or the benefit of being on welfare by the government. Is where it's looking like it's going, and I'll show you a bill that they're setting up for to do that, and that's the whole thing. And there's a lot of people that are gonna want that, and it doesn't matter who's president for that takeover. It all has to do with the International Monetary Fund, the Federal Reserve, and all the international banks. They're all the same entity. So, yeah, with local control over each population's currency, but it all report back to the main one. And whatever they want, that's where you go. And you know who makes the best bankers. So yeah. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about that. And this is called the Banking for All Act. Banking for All Act. Now, this is in committee and it hasn't been passed, but it'll get passed because the Federal Reserve is the one pushing it. So there's no way it's not going to get passed. All right. No one's going to get to vote on it. It's going to be, if you don't want all of the dirt released on you, you're going to vote to put this bill through. And right now it's only like a page, but by the time it gets done, it'll be like a phone book. Yeah. So the Banking for All Act, what is this? This bill requires Federal Reserve member banks to provide digital pass-through accounts, i.e. digital dollar wallets. Now, what do you think when you think digital dollar wallet? It's Bitcoin or ball and chain. It's called blockchain, but kind of sounds like a prison cell, doesn't it? Digital dollar wallets to residents and citizens and to businesses domiciled in the United States, among other things. These accounts must provide specified banking services to eligible persons who elect to deposit funds into these accounts. Who elect to. Now, notice this is everything having to do with government is by consent. All right. Who elect to deposit funds into these accounts, including access to COVID-19, i.e. coronavirus, aid payments. Okay. Including access to COVID aid payments. So they wanted this to be passed and in place in January 2021. It's not there yet. So what they're doing is they're setting up accounts for everybody. And this is how they're going to give out government assistance. This will be how they give out welfare. And this is, hey, if you want that we're going to give you $2,000 this time for everybody. If all you have to do is agree to have it go to your Federal Reserve account that everybody gets, and all of your state assistance will go to your Federal Reserve account. These accounts may not charge fees or have balance payments and must provide a specified interest. See, we're going to give you interest too if you put it in your Federal Reserve account. A private bank, mind you, private bank. Federal Reserve is not federal. For all of those people who have no idea about this, it should be pretty old news. I was even taught that in school way back when, before automobiles. That Federal Reserve is not federal, is a private bank. Say in areas with limited access to Federal Reserve member banks, these banks must be partner with the postal retail facilities. Okay, so Federal Reserve banks and international banks, international trade and all that are all in your major cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul in my case. But you go out to all these little rural areas and they're going to have kiosks that are set up in the post offices. Now, the reason that we did not get our $1,000 stimulus, whatever it was because President Trump wouldn't sign off on $20 billion for the post office. And we can figure out like, well, it's only 20 billion. What's the big deal there? And why would the post office need $20 billion? And what's going on with that? Well, it turns out because they're the post office is the one that would have to maintain all of these accounts and kiosks and all this stuff. That's what it's for. They didn't mention that in the proposal. They just tacked on the $20 billion to our, why giving money to the people when they've already approved it? I have no idea. But that was how Trump excused not giving out the stimulus. And that also probably lost him the election. He probably held off on that because he thought, well, if they don't vote for me, then they might, be worried about getting their money or something. I think that was a political ploy. There's no excuse not to just cut checks out. Everything's already approved. Federal Reserve banks must permit state non-member banks, credit unions to open master accounts for the purposes of offering digital pass-through accounts. Postal retail facilities and certain small banks may be reimbursed for the appropriate Federal Reserve Bank for operational costs incurred by the accounts. So everything's all approved. Federal Reserve is buying, Federal Reserve is paying. They're the ones that want it to happen. Now, what does this mean? It means that if you're on any sort of assistance, Social Security, any sort of welfare, and that's at the federal level, it's going to go get deposited into these accounts. If you get any sort of a tax refund or anything, it's likely going to go to these accounts. Now, are you going to be forced to use these accounts? No. But there will be a benefit. Okay. There will be a benefit for people, and that's how they get people signed up. Now, they're going to say, well, if we got $1,000 in COVID relief to go out to everybody in the country, but if you elect to have it go into your crypto Federal Reserve wallet, we'll give you $2,000. Okay. With more to come at their discretion. It'll be like a lottery jackpot, probably, where they'll just throw funds in there to get people to sign up to use it. And of course, anytime you sign up for something that's free, there is always privileges. There's always a terms of use. There's always something to that. And they'll make it really attractive for people to use these Federal Reserve accounts. Okay. You can throw all your money in there until you say something wrong on Twitter or Facebook, and they determine that you're just spreading too much misinformation and we need to turn your accounts off. Okay? Hold on to your cash, guys. I mean, it's all worthless and it doesn't mean anything, yeah, but if you want to have private interactions with people, you need physical money. If you don't want to be that much less of a slave or that much more of a slave or whatever, don't elect for your digital wallet. So this is a pretty short bill. I'll skim through it quickly here after I take a look and see what's going on in the chat. JD Farag did a video on this issue. Yeah, I actually didn't hear about it. I searched. Where did I hear about this from? I don't think it was Owen Benjamin. I think I heard about it. No, I heard about it from the Urban Farmer, which he's interesting because he's got little bits of information here and there that are like, wow, what? He's a person who is involved in farming urban areas in Canada. And he's also kind of a wingnut. One of those, he was into survivalism and being off the grid like 10, 15 years ago. As soon as he went from liberal, he like snapped straight into Alex Jones and end of the world kind of stuff. So he's a little flaky, but he's got some good information. And yeah, he said, oh yeah, the Americans got our Federal Reserve bank account digital currency that they just passed. And I'm like, what? And sure enough, and when you search YouTube for it, it's all of these like commercials for old people, or these guys talking in their soft voice about, just think about how wonderful it will be to have all of your money in one place that stays up with current inflation rates, and how easy it is to, we already do all of our purchases and our commerce digitally anyway. What a great solution. Nothing but video after video after video about how wonderful the solution is. DLC for Christ, how's it going? It's going wonderful. It's the greatest apocalypse ever. It's always going wonderful for me. Always. So yeah, all of the YouTube videos around this are advertisements. And now that Trump is not in there and there's this whole thing, it's like people might hopefully pay more attention to this stuff. Maybe they'll figure out that he wasn't the great savior for Christianity and conservatism, because he's not. I would rather have a Barack Obama in there than Donald Trump. Yeah. Because nobody trusts Obama. What's he going to do? And if you look at Trump, you hear like, well, at least Trump didn't start any wars. And it's like, if that's the best thing you can say about a president, he is a horrible, horrible president. All right. The best you got is that he hasn't started any wars. That's pretty bad. Yeah. Native soldier says, heard I voted for Biden. No, I don't participate. I don't participate in that rigmarole. And then you got that whole, how can you comment on it? I'm like, hey, this is the first political video that I've really, I think, ever done. That's it. I'm not a political guy, because if I don't personally know them and can't shake their hands, why would I vote for them? I already know they're all dirtbags. I know the system's all rigged. I don't need any, I don't need to be involved in that. I don't believe in the lesser of two evils argument though either, but I'm just not going to participate. I don't care. Showing up in court for a robbery and your defense is at least I didn't kill anyone. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Is conceding not another way to give consent? Creations of RJ. Yes. Yes. Look, guys, if you don't speak out against things, you are allowing it. I don't care if you disagree with the abortion or something. If you don't make it known, silence is saying, go ahead. You're approving. That you get a bill in the mail or something like that, that you didn't, if you get a bill in the mail that is for something you never ordered, you never heard the company before, and you don't get back to them within like 30 days, you owe that money. Okay. It doesn't matter if there's, then you have to go back and fight everything as to like, where did this money, what are you billing me for? If you don't say anything, it's the same as saying, yeah, I accept your bill. That's how everything works. Everything. It's all Admiralty law, and I'm not going to get all into that. I'm not going to get all into that because I don't offer legal advice. At Max Bauer, evil is evil. True, but everybody is. Everybody is wicked. Are there people that are less wicked than other people? Yes. Those are the people you should vote for. I don't know. I don't give election advice either. I'm just pointing out what actually is taking place. So let me see if there's anything in here. Banking for All Act, if anyone wants to look it up, that's what it's called. Digital dollars. You're talking Bitcoin stuff. They're going to create their own Bitcoin. And for anyone who thinks that, like, I never got into the cryptocurrency myself because of this very thing, is that, well, if they just turn off the internet or Bitcoin just disappears one day, I mean, who are you gonna go after? And all of these things were set up by the very people you're trying to escape. You're trying to escape the IRS, and you're trying to escape tax code, and you're trying to escape all these things by parking your money in Bitcoin. And you like gambling, so you want to gamble on the Bitcoin. It's kind of like the stock market, right? But the big thing is that you don't have any real control over what's going on at any of those markets. I purchased XRP like 6-8 months ago or something, and I've made a little bit off it, but just because it was uncertain what's going on with the dollar, it's good to have some in some other currency in case you needed to make it, If the dollar goes to zero, at least your whatever is still worth something in some other currency. But realistically, the IRS and all those guys are the ones who set all that up so that when they came up with their own system, it would all be perfected by the independent creative person, right? Because government's terrible at everything. Big, large corporations are terrible at everything. So you have to have the independent people out there and their creativity invest their time for free to come up with a great system for you to use. And probably the best one that they're actually going to base it around is going to be XRP, because that's all it does. Is it makes transfers between countries and between IMFs and whatever is going to be perfect for them. It's really fast. The current system they have is Swift, and it's been around for 40 years. And if you want to send $100,000 or $1 million over to Zimbabwe, it takes like 2 or 3 days for it to clear, going through all the different checks. If you had XRP, it would take like an hour. So yeah, they're going to update their system. This bank account's going to be a thing for everybody, and it's going to use crypto. That's all there is to that. Notice how it's not charging. This bill will pass because it's not asking for any taxpayer money. It's just saying you are going to do this. The voting is just something to make it official, but they don't need a bill for this. I think probably because it involves the post office, and the only actual real government organization we have that's real government that goes back to the founding of the nation is the post office. That's it. Okay, the post office is not like the actual post office. The real one is not in all capital letters. And because it includes them, they probably need to have a bill or something. But yeah. So yeah, maintenance and cost of assets. It basically says we're going to do these things and you all have to pay for it. The individual private banks have to pay for it. Yeah. Authority and mandate for the Federal Reserve banks to maintain digital dollar wallets for the general public. Now, again, this is not Federal Reserve is not a government entity. So they're saying, hey, we're going to set up bank accounts for everybody. Yeah, sounds wonderful. Wonderful. Terms of the digital dollar wallets. Oh boy, terms and benefits shall not be subject to any account fees, minimum balances, maximum balances, and shall pay interest at the rate of whatever the rate is, shall provide debit cards, online account access, automatic bill pay, mobile banking, customer service, and other such services as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System determines appropriate in the public interest. Okay, this private company governor of the Federal Reserve System, provided that digital dollar wallets shall not include overdraft coverage. Okay, so these individual banks have to set up accounts that tie into the IMF, and they have to provide debit cards, and they have to provide customer support and online access to these things. The independent individual banks. And they have to, because all of the banks get their money from the Federal Reserve, all of them. Yeah. Yeah. And then you say something bad on Twitter, and then they turn off your Federal Reserve account because you have terms and conditions. Just like when you sign up to YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And that's all there is to this bill for right now. Yeah, so that's all there is to that. Which one is this one? The $6 trillion? Okay, I want to talk about Space Force. Talk about Space Force for the other channel and the True Earth stuff. Well, what do we got over here? We got a few people, and we got 20 people watching. Oh, boy. I hope everybody is doing well and everything. Yeah, I'm good. That's, we're at heat wave for people that aren't from the Midwest. It's like 70 degrees out in the middle of November. It doesn't really have, it happens to where it's like 50, 60, but it's actually been sweating hot. And it's been nice. Clean up leaves. And I built one of them compost things, and getting everything put away. looking at new projects to do. Trying to figure out maybe some property to buy or something like that. Moving on. Oh, I used my little drone donation money, my microphone, and I don't know if this thing will actually show up. I used donation money. My speakers blew up. They've been kind of blown up for a while. And the way my system works is I have like an actual musician microphone with the same connectors as what you would for like if you're going to go do a concert or something. And not USB or anything that directly plugs into the computer. And because of the way my speakers, when my speakers blew up, I have to replace everything. So I got a new microphone and some speakers, and that helped out with that. So it does go to good use. And they have been blowing for almost a year now. So it was, you know, the old money situation. Maybe when I get my Federal Reserve bank account, I can buy more stuff. I can put a minimum payment, $10 down on a boat because I can afford the minimum payment. Right. Yeah, lovely in the Midwest weather. All it is it's hurting the hunters and the fishermen who want to go out and go ice fish. My neighbor just got his it's 57 in Cali. It is 68 here. So we're actually warmer than California. Yeah, my neighbor's putting together his fish house. And he was hoping by the end of November he'd get to use it. And I don't think so. So another wonderful thing that Trump has done. Okay, in some speech he was doing, he mentioned Space Force, and everyone kind of thought he was joking. They didn't know what to think because there is a Netflix show called Space Force. There is, and it's got that guy from The Office on it, and I thought he was just making a mockery of it. But no, he legitimately did sign in a new armed forces branch dealing with space. Now, are we done doing ridiculous things yet? We've got a fantasy virus. We've got Marines for space where nobody is. Who are they going to go fight? Are they going to go fight people on the moon? Is that what they're going to do? Nobody thought this was very important, but you know, it just boggles the mind a little bit. What do we need a space force for? Just to hide more money, to defraud the American people more? Isn't NASA defrauding the people enough at 50 million a day, 60 million a day? That we need actual Can you imagine what that armed forces brigade would look like based on a total fraud? Are they going to ride little balloons around everywhere? Do you think? Is that what it's going to be? What do you think these guys are going to do? Now, if we pretended that the space thing was real, let's pretend now that they landed on the moon. Pretend this. Who are we enemies with in space? Nobody. There are all these people that are supposedly our greatest enemies. China, Russia, the Russian bots, they're going to get us. Putin, we got to get Putin. All these guys, they've been partnered with us in space exploration since like 1950. So who are we fighting up there? Are they going to jump the wall now? Is that what it is? They're going to jump the wall. They need a Marine Force. Special Arctic troopers like G.I. Joe. It's nonsense. Just like the Cold War was nonsense. It's like we're sharing a space station and we've got a Cold War. Really? That makes no sense. And now the Russians are the ones that lift our stuff up into space, supposedly. And we don't like the Russians? We're going to trust them to put our stuff up there, but we're not friends with them. It's ridiculous, guys. Ridiculous. It's all smoke and mirrors. Everybody is run by the same people. Every country. Except the ones we got to go to war with, like Iran. Trump officially establishes U.S. Space Force with 2020 defense bill signing. How many trillions of dollars was that one, Trump? How many trillions? We got a military branch you guys didn't even know you needed. What I think is going to be hilarious, because if they actually do this with like regular people, there's enough of the old true earth rhetoric out there where people are going to figure out pretty quick that it's flat. The more people that get involved in that, the more are going to figure out it's flat. I saw a very good meme the other day, and I actually think it was on Owen Benjamin's, but it was a picture meme where it was a kid and a guy sitting on the bench, kind of like in the JFK, where they're sitting there and you've got the Washington Monument out there. And the little kid goes to the guy and he goes, "Is Santa Claus a hoax?" And the next scene, the guy puts an arm around the kid and he goes, "Of course not, Billy. Think of all the people that would have to be involved." And then the next scene is them looking off at the Washington Monument, the big penis in Washington. Okay, now you know what we are talking about. Everybody willingly lies because their job depends on it. Or they willingly go along with the mind control. "Oh, we landed on the moon. We did. And we went up there and played golf." Went up there and played golf. Right. Why don't we have a rover up there? We got one on Mars. Doesn't make any sense. So we know that this whole thing is nonsense, BS. And we're going to create an armed forces division to fight who? Hey, Trump, conservative Christian. And the best part about Trump, what I liked about Trump was pretty much this sealed the deal for me, was back in March, I think. It could have been February. But Trump was asked about the corona, and Trump said it's a hoax. And I go, good. And that's the way I'm like, okay, I'll roll with this guy, where he actually will put the truth out there sometimes. I go, good. It's a hoax. And then he's going through the motions of, well, you're shutting down businesses, so we'll throw a couple $2 billion and we'll give everybody assistance. And it's like, okay, that's playing politics. But he knows it's fake. Okay. Then he pretends to get it himself and is out of the hospital in a day. And then he comes out, and all this time, he authorized $6 trillion to fight this hoax nonsense disease that he himself said was a hoax. And after he got it, he said, a case of the sniffles. He had a cold. $6 trillion, shut the country down, shut the world down, shut everything down for what he knows is a hoax. And now how much money goes into Space Force, which he knows the shape of the earth. Okay? How much hoax money? Good conservative Christian. He's a conservative Christian. President Trump signed 2020 National Defense Authorization Act with the establishment of the U.S. Space Force, USSF, as the sixth branch of the armed forces. The Space Force is part of the Department of Air Force as much as the U.S. Marine Corps Department of the Navy. The new branch will be stood up over the next 18 months, military officials say. It was nearly a half a century from Kitty Hawk to the creation of the... Oh, jeez. There's too much. Too much. I can't do it. How wonderful our armed forces are. I can't do it. I can't do it. The wonderful history. It's a big moment. That's a big moment. We're all aware of it. He added space. It's going to be a lot of things happening in space because space is the world's newest war fighting domain. They run out of Muslims to blow up, or what? Is that what it is? We have to create. I mean, maybe they're thinking space aliens and they'll create a fake thing up there that we need people in space to go do stuff. And then they're going to blow up rockets in the sky to make it look like we're fighting somebody. Is that what they're going to do? What threat from space? And what are Marines going to do? You've got an asteroid or meteor coming in to go hit something. What is a Marine going to do? It's ridiculous on its face. And now this is a really underreported story because the conservatives, the people don't want it out there, I guess. I mean, if I was the left and the left, the way that the left media goes, I would be laughing. But it is part of the agenda that Trump has nothing to do with. He's handed his marching orders, and this is what he did. And because it's part of the plan, no one can say anything about it. It's ridiculous, though. Amid grave threats to our national security, American superiority in space is absolutely vital. Where does America not have superiority? We've got a base in every country in the world. We're the New World Order. Where do we not have this superiority? And we're leading, but we're not leading by enough. But very shortly, we'll be leading by a lot. The Space Force will help us. Another thing about Space Force is I wrote a book. That's why it's funny that it's actually called the Space Force. Because I think it's a generic thing that when you're writing something that, it's a space military, what is Space Force, right? There's probably 100 movies out there that use that too. It's just funny. It comes to fruition. It comes to reality. The Space Force will help us deter aggression and control the ultimate high ground. Against who? Who has ever attacked America? Like who? The whole Japan thing really doesn't count because Hawaii's kind of in their backyard. It's a ways for them, but that ain't like attacking the homeland. Trump also said he will appoint some general moron to chief of space operations. Okay, chief of space operations. This is one of those things where Netflix is a parody of reality and setting you up for the things that are happening. Literally, this is it. This is why I thought it was a joke, but it's not. It's reality. The very first member of Space Force. Strategic imperative. The establishment of the U.S. Space Force is a historic event and a strategic imperative for our nation. Space has become so important to our way of life, our economy, our national security, that we must be prepared as a nation to protect it from hostile actions. You'd think that like 1970 would have been the time to do this. 1970, not 2020. I need a reason to spend more money and get more people involved in the government. People are getting wise to our real life hoaxes, so now we need total fantasies. Esper also stressed the Space Force will help the United States prepare itself against threats in an evolving space environment. Evolving space environments. You see why evolution's a bad thing in any way, sense, form, shape, is they try to use it for everything. What's evolving out there in space? There's a North Korean. We got Kim Jong-un. Is he riding a rocket up there? Is he riding around Earth in a rocket, you think? We got to go get him. In military operations, space is not just the place from which we support combat operations in other domains, but a warfighting domain in and of itself. Really? Our adversaries are building and deploying capabilities that threaten us, so we can no longer take space for granted. The U.S. Space Force is necessary and essential step, blah, 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 blah. So I guess the Iranians figured out how to build balloons too. And they finally got enough helium together from the cabal over at NASA that takes all the world's helium to run their balloons. If people are launching balloons, we got to stop them. That's all it is, guys. Balloons. That's it. Space Force will maintain and enhance competitive edge of the Department of Defense in space while adapting new strategic challenges. Space Force will be headquartered at the Pentagon. Okay. Newly created branch organizes, trains, and equips space forces in order to protect U.S. and allied interests in space. Oh, that's the allied interests. So they call America as the big bully, right? America isn't anything. America is told to go beat somebody up. We're just the, is it the Princess Bride, right? The people who run everything. This was an Owen Benjamin. He did a breakdown of it. It was pretty good. The people who run everything, it'd be like the little Sicilian guy who's the brains and comes up with all the plans. And then he just tells Fezzik what to do. Andre the Giant. And Andre the Giant just goes in and beats everybody up. That's what it is. USSF responsibilities, developing space professionals. So they got little ties in their spacesuits, right? Acquiring military space systems, maturing military doctrine for space power. Organizing Space Force, prevent our combatant commands. A whole bunch of leet speak that means nothing. Nothing. Absolute ridiculousness. So, back to the old election. Trump's going to fight it. He'll probably win. And we'll take a look at chat, and then I think we'll be done. We got Chad up here. How you doing, Chad? Shepard's ambassador, Space Force. Yeah, I know it's not just Marines, but they're having Space Marines. Trump quoted, this is why I thought it was a joke, because in Trump's speech that he gave in front of college students, they laughed at him. It was really sad. Everyone's like, yay, lower taxes or whatever nonsense, garbage lies that were coming out of the guy's mouth. And then the next one's, and then I'm going to create a new branch of the armed forces, Space Force. And they're like, ha, 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 ha. And then he's like, and Trump's like, and we're going to have Space Marines. And then he moved on to something else because, yeah, everyone thought he was joking. Independence Day with Will Smith. Yeah, I like that movie. People call that a terrible movie, and it's like, it's very entertaining. Very good CGI for the day. Who doesn't like Will Smith? I don't like him in his serious movies, but when he just plays Will Smith, he's fine. Random guy, still no space station. Yeah, space station isn't real. And everything you see in space is total fraud. I mean, you can look it up right now. You guys think those are real pictures? You think that's real? What took the picture? This thing is the size of a 747. Okay. Is that curve even remotely close to what it should be without photo manipulation? No. It should be way less than that. Probably closer. This one's, of course, isn't big enough. Yeah, and it's dumb. It's like, what took these pictures of the ISS? They have something hanging on a balloon that they can point to and say, if you get your telescope or your binoculars out and look just right at the right time, you can see it. And it's like, there's this thing, guys, called angular resolution. Okay, angular resolution. It means based on the distance between like your eyes, there is a limit physically to how far you can see. Okay, there's a limit. You can't just see forever. It doesn't matter about anything if you can see it in a scope or whatever. You can only see as far as your angular resolution will allow you to see. Well, we can see planets up in the sky that are supposedly trillions of miles away. Angular resolution shouldn't allow for that. Okay. You've got a space station the size of a 747 that's 300 miles or so. No, 300,000 feet, 350,000 feet or something up there. Angular resolution will not allow you to see it. You got a real hard time even seeing a 747 up at 40,000 feet with the unaided eye. Right? Space is fake. Fake, fake, fake. Most of them are cartoons. They don't even try to pass them off as real. This is the artist interpretation. Here's a lady with a bunch of hairspray in her hair pretending that it's she's weightless. Yeah. Here's a good CGI picture. What I do find funny about it is that the horizon in the back is flat. They must not have curved it. Yeah. I mean, you can do this with anything. It's not... satellites in space. They're all artist renderings, paintings. Every single one, guys. Every single one. They're all fake. Pictures of the Earth by NASA's own mouth are fake. Composite images. Okay? It's all fake. Is Santa Claus a hoax? Is Santa Claus a hoax? Just think of all the people that would have to be in on it. You telling your kids about Santa Claus? But I do this in my last one. Oh, there you go. Hubble in space. What took the picture? Why does it look like a Pringles can wrapped in tinfoil? Okay. This one's obviously computer CGI. This one's obviously computer CGI. This one here is a Pringles can. You know, they don't even put any money into their models. They need to hire someone like George Lucas's LucasArts to do this stuff because they're obviously incapable. A Pringles can? Not to mention the fact that based on physics, none of this stuff would work at all. Rockets don't work in space. If it's a complete vacuum, it ain't going to work. Okay? It's all fake. So we've just created a new space branch to go up into this fantasy make-believe. What are they going to fight inside the computer? Are they going to fight inside a Pro 3D Studio or 3DS Studio Max? Is that where they're all going to fight? They all going to fight in a video game? Because it's fake. Nonsensical, trash, garbage. Trump spent $6 trillion, more than way more than Obama, twice as much as Obama, I think, because he spent 5 or 6 trillion before that. And you thought Obamacare was expensive. Oh, just wait till you get the sniffles. The sniffles is going to cost you 6 trillion, guys. 6 trillion. Christmas gifts are an inside job. Thank you, Critical Mass. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And yeah, if anyone's got any anything they want to say or any questions or anything like that, I think that's a pretty good end to end it off on. Fake Space Force was a bridge too far for you, Dean? Well, praise the Lord. But man, what took you so long? You know, I mean, for a lot of people, it wasn't for me, but for a lot of people, it's figuring out that the moon landing was a hoax. And it's like, when that happened, people didn't believe it. Okay. Just so you know, when it happened, people didn't believe it. It was only through public education and your parents, like my parents, not caring about their children and allowing public education to take over and train them how to do nothing, as opposed to passing down real skills and real knowledge, is the reason that people believe in this nonsense. You know, it's what it is. Mark my words. If we're still here 20 years from now, people will look back at this as the greatest, worst pandemic, worse than the Spanish flu, worse than the bubonic plague, because all of the history books are going to talk about all the cases. And the people that are there will be like, no, it was a hoax. Be sure to tell your kids about it. Okay. My dad said that the moon landing was garbage. Okay. And my dad's a lefty liberal. He's not a boomer, though. He's a little too old to be the boomer, but he's a lefty liberal, had a Union State job almost all of his life. And he said, well, I don't know. They went to the moon. They say so. That means he doesn't believe it for a second. All right. People that were alive back then. He also told me that nobody back then thought that Hitler was a bad guy in World War II. All right. It's only all this stuff that gets brainwashed into your kids because you're too busy playing around on your boat or whatever and not teaching your kids anything. Good old Hitleria was looked up pretty highly by most people in America. All of that stuff that came after with the camps and all of that, yeah, they bulldozed all those camps. I kind of wonder why. Kind of wonder why. How many of them type of people were there in Europe at the time that all that supposedly happened? Not denying anything before anyone gets all conspiratorial. Could it be? Get conspiratorial is like some stuff does not add up. All right, it does not add up. But history and who tells the story of history is always the victor. It's not the victor gets to tell the story. It's whoever tells the story is the victor, because no one can verify any of that stuff. And like I said, as bad as things get, it's always been this way. You can either take part in the beast system and get your privileges and your terms of conditions and your Federal Reserve cryptocurrency bank account with millions of dollars waiting in it for it, just for you to wait, just sign up. We'll give you whatever you want. Just sign up. And then there's going to be other people that will be like, nah, don't need it. I'll take the God path and let God watch out for me and try and do the right and moral thing. And then see how that works. Trust me, it works a lot better. A lot better. So after that little rant, I think we're going to be done. World War II was my first truth topic, then 9/11 in space. Yeah, 9/11, everyone knows that's a hoax. I mean, nobody believes that. Nobody hit by anything that fell over. Right? I mean, that whole thing is ridiculous. But then you look back at every major war has also been started by a false flag. And, you're going to crazy conspiracy theorist. I go, well, thank you. Proves that I think. I say, you're just an idiot. A moron. That's what I think. I watched a debate yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It was Nathan Thompson versus Aaron Ra. And Aaron Ra looks like he really masturbates a lot and really likes the Pornhub and really thinks that he is someone special. And he likes the Anton LaVey look. And it's like, this guy is just really what's wrong with people in general. And he's one of these guys, like, he's an atheist. He probably believes in eugenics. And I go, he looks like the kind of person where I could probably vote for sterilization. As a survival of the fittest, Aaron Ra. Survival. You're not very fit. You're not very smart. And you're kind of narcissistic. And you look like you suck on bats when people aren't around looking at you. And, I thought he would come up with some sort of an argument against Nathan. And there is nothing. Aaron Ra, the best that the atheists can come up with when you don't really care about the world, you don't care about money, and you don't care about politics, and you just care about what the truth is and where God leads you, and you care about being productive kind of and using your creativity, and you don't care about lollipops and fancy pants. When people like these weirdo atheists that are put on a pedestal speak, you're just like, what do people see in them? And it's like, well, the people that like that are completely turned over to reprobate minds. And God says, you don't get a conscience anymore. You obviously don't want it. And God is merciful enough that he doesn't want to hurt those people with inner conflict, that they would follow nonsense like Aaron Ra and these atheists like this, and people that want to believe we landed on the moon. Okay. People that want to believe the space fantasies, the shape of the earth doesn't really matter. All right. If you want to believe NASA is really launching rockets up there, I mean, hey, I'm a Christian and God bless America and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, did you read your Bible where it's talking about the heavens above and hell below and everything's pretty directional and it says the earth doesn't move, right? How much of a Christian are you? You believe your Bible, right? You believe that. Nobody believes it. Nobody believes that Bible. So it's what the truth is. It's like America's not Christian. People who say they're Christian just want to be in the Christian club, right? Because they see that they're a little bit higher morality. So they want to count themselves in with that club. And if voting for Trump counts me into the club, then I'm going to be in that club. But, reality is, though, most people are in the Aaron Ra club where they want to sit and watch porn all day and debate with creationists about how bad God is. Okay. Nathan Thompson goes there. He was talking about a flat earth discussion, and Aaron Ra, all he had to do was talk about God. And Nathan's like, here to talk about earth and physics. And Aaron Ra says, I'm not a physicist, so I'm not going to discuss physics. And it's like, you're in a debate discussing the physics of the earth, and he doesn't want to talk physics. But it makes perfect sense to the people in the chat, because, hey, if you don't believe in a globe, you're a retard. Fair enough. Pick your poison. Some people just want that strong delusion. And, I am happy for the mask. It's the greatest apocalypse ever. I am happy Joe Biden is the apparent victor, at least for right now. I am happy for all of those things because people are going to wake up out of this nonsense and get their stuff together, man. They got to get their stuff together. Very, very happy for it. Critical mass keeps getting blocked. You're re-verified. Bath sucker might top bat sucker. Well, he's sucking something. Probably I don't know. Him and his brother both are very narcissistic. And it's like, I just want to say to the guy, so your mom and dad were never around, so they gave you lots of lollipops when you were kids, and you grew up thinking that you were smarter and better than everyone else because you got more lollipops. Usually it's the Brian Denlinger thing too. You can spot the narcissist out there like crazy because Aaron Ra is like, I don't have to give you a platform, blah, 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 on this debate. And apparently Nathan Thompson was asked by the debater and Aaron Ra to do the debate. It wasn't the other way around. So it's like he's so narcissistic that he thinks he's propping people up like he is Jesus saying, come with me to debate. I am better than you and I will lift you up, right? It's classic narcissism. And most atheists are. They don't want to be held accountable for anything either. They're not real men. They're all gammas. Gammas. They don't like real men. They don't like people that will actually think for themselves. Science, the Bible must be symbolic in those areas. Yeah, a lot of people will say that. Well, it's a metaphor about up and down. It's metaphorical up and down. It's like, shut up. Shut up. Yeah. People don't want to trust what the book says. Sure. I mean, I've been into Bible stuff now for 10 years. So for me, it's not that big of a deal. For a lot of people it is, but I look, as to how it relates people, most people are fully vested in the world. And when the world isn't making sense at all, why is nobody trying to figure out what is really going on? And Owen Benjamin said on one of his streams, he said, it seems to be that there's a split, not between the right and the left, but between people who are appreciative and want knowledge and people who just don't. And it scares them. So like when a person who is actively seeking knowledge and wants the truth, they find the truth in something and they go, oh, wow. And they want to share it with other people because they're like, hey, can you believe this? Isn't this wonderful? Right. And then the other person who is unaware of it feels like it's an assault because they're ignorant and they don't want to let on and they want to be mad. It's kind of a divide like that. And it's, it sounds like there's some legs to that because there's a lot of people who have no reason to disbelieve. I had a situation actually on like a game that I play where someone went way out of their way for months to try and stab me in the back because I was a Christian, and it Found out I was a Christian with a Christian channel. Just a Discord thing or something. And it's like, really? Really? Like all kinds of people on the internet, you know, and it's like, because you find out that I'm Christian, and you know, the old flat earth thing too, but what a dumb reason. What a dumb reason to be immoral, you know? Inversion down on earth, yeah. Gets intense with the heretics. Well, don't let it. You just have fun with it. And generally just poke fun at their things that you know that they do. You know, if you're in a discussion, a debate with somebody, Nathan Thompson, the guy I was talking about, is pretty good at pushing people's buttons in the debate just to get them to flip out. And, you know, all of those guys who are on there fighting against God, you can pretty much just say, well, I'm sorry to take time away from your porn watching, you know, but we'll be done here in just a couple of minutes after I prove you wrong. I know you really want to get up. And it's true, because all of those guys who hate God, that's what they do, is sit around and look at porn all day. And it's not just my feeling about it. You can look up the hard statistics of exactly who is watching porn, how many times a day they're watching it, what devices they're using, because places like Pornhub brag about it. All right. So yeah, if you're that cognitive dissonance where you can completely make up science as you go along and believe in fantasy fairy tales because it makes you feel good, like evolution and all this other stuff, that you're not responsible for your actions and all these things, you know, that's what you're doing with most of your time. You're not exactly finding truth. You're finding excuses. That's what you are. You've got people who are finding truth, right? I think I've cracked the code more than Owen Benjamin did. You've got people who are excited to find the truth and are actively seeking it. And then you have the other people who are actively finding excuses why they either can't participate in the truth or why they can't believe in the truth. Actively finding excuses, actively finding truth, actively finding excuses. That's the kinds of people in the world. And most people are actively finding excuses because they're part of the world. Remember, you know, the path is narrow. Wide is the path to destruction. Those are the people that make excuses for everything. Yeah. They probably track everyone's hours spent there. I don't remember if I did a video, but I did do research on it because it was something about, I don't remember what the exact thing was, but I had to search for a specific demographic. I think I was searching for baby boomer demographic in porn because I was interested in that. Like, what are these guys doing? You know, my 4 boats and I live alone in my house that's 3,000 square foot. And it's like, what are you doing in there? Right. And it has, when you look up that, it has the demographics for everybody and what women are into at what age bracket, what men are into at what age bracket, and all of the dirty little details. And because everything is a monopoly in the world, it all goes back to the little tiny hat people. Okay. All of that stuff is all tracked basically by one entity. So, you know, the numbers are really, really accurate. And yeah, it turns out, you know, my brother was really big into that stuff. And I thought it was kind of weird. But now, realizing this data, it seems like, no, that's pretty much how everybody is. You know, and, you know, it's kind of gross and sad, but, well, it's not surprising. And you give your kids a smartphone at like 6 years old, what do you expect? Of course, they're going to be confused and trans and all these kind of things, you know. So how the Amish and those guys, they started to get taken over by the world a bit. They have a whole bunch of different kinds of Amish, Mennonite, Amish, Huttonite, and a lot of different little groups. And a couple of them got taken over because they give their kids cell phones. And that's a hand grenade of the world into your little culture that you have. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Oh, they don't have porn in Iran, by the way. The internet does not go there. I wonder why we want to take out Iran. Probably Iraq too. Huh. Most time debates are a waste of time, doesn't accomplish anything but anger both sides. Well, it depends on how you do it. Debates are not a waste of time in the sense of just even getting a topic out there. And if they're moderated well, you can still make your points. And it doesn't matter what the other guy does. If he calls you names or people are on his side, or if everybody is on the person on like Aaron Ra, Sis Boomba, if everyone's on this crazy psycho masturbator who probably, eats bats. I think that's what Nathan said. He looks like he eats bats when he's not on. Yeah, he does. He looks like filth. Really try. He looks just like Anton LaVey with a crappy wig. And, if people are like 100% into that guy's camp, it doesn't matter, because if the debate is moderated well, you can still get your talking points out there and you can still put your point out there. And if they choose not to address them, that's fine. But there'll be guys like me who want to learn something and rejoice when we do learn something that will be like, what did you say? And then I'll be like, if the guy doesn't answer the question, then I'll look it up on Google and I'll try and figure it out. I mean, that's you come to the old the truth about the earth. Okay. I was watching those debates between people and not one person had any argument against anything any flat earther said. There is no argument. None. Now you can argue specific points about, well, your map doesn't accurately predict, the summer solstice in 30 years from now or something like that. And that's not really the point. The point is always what is the shape of the earth. It's not heliocentric. It's not spinning around the galaxy, spinning around the sun, with the moon spinning around it in this crazy cosmic corkscrew dance. And meanwhile, you look up at the night sky and the stars are exactly the same. And you know what? 6 months later, when we're supposedly on the other side of that sun, millions of miles, millions and millions and millions of miles. And I should be looking up into a different part of the galaxy completely 6 months after I looked at it at first. And you know what? It's the exact same stars. And the North Star is in the exact same location, to the point where you can put a pipe pointed at the North Star and it's never going to change. You'll always be able to look in the pipe and it's always going to be pointed at that star. Doesn't matter anytime. And you're going to tell me I'm corkscrewing a zillion miles an hour through the universe. Silly. Amish are better off than the rest of us in terms of health in other areas. Sure. Well, the bigger thing is they have a clan. They actually have neighbors that will help them in times of need. They have their own problems too. A lot of groups do. But you look at the people who have the big thing with the Amish got going is they don't need government. And when you don't need government, the government leaves you alone. Where you get you into problems is where you try to take the benefits and the privileges of the government, and then you want to also rebel and do your own thing. That's how the people who want to avoid paying taxes, that's how they end up. It's like, if you were doing your own thing and not doing privileges of the government, like running corporations, running nonprofits, if you really didn't want to pay taxes, you wouldn't do those things. Okay. But you want the privileges and the benefits. Well, if you want the privileges and the benefits of using the government, you have to pay the taxes. That's your slave tax. It's what you have to do. And and that's only right. If you're going to use the privileges and the benefits of the government, then yes, you should pay your taxes. If you don't want to pay taxes, then don't participate with the government. All right, so that's what I got on my rant. How long have I rant? Not sure. All right, guys. Well, that's what we got. And, I'd almost say mark my words, but Owen Benjamin thinks that the that Trump is going to be in, and it's going to be because of the courts and all that stuff that get him in. And I'm kind of on that page, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I don't think that ye old Biden was ever intended to win, like ever. I think they wanted to make it a close election, regardless. If nobody voted for, I think all fraud is to make the election seem like it's closer than it really is, right? And when they get overzealous with their pumping the numbers, they accidentally might win, you know? And it'll probably look back and find that all these votes are fraudulent and all this stuff. And then Trump's going to win by 2 votes or 1 vote. And then it's going to say, see, every vote matters. Every vote can make a difference. You need to do your part and vote. And then they're going to be mad at all the third-party candidates that took away, or fourth party. We're going to be mad at Kanye West because he took votes away from Trump and all this stuff. So, yeah, you know what it is. We'll see what happens, and we'll do another live stream when more happens. I'm looking for some fun space stuff, right? There are a couple of talking points about the old space stuff that I want to do over on the other channel and delve into that a bit more. But for right now, that's all I got, guys. Everyone take care. God bless. We'll see you later.